I'm hitting record right now. Welcome to the Jungle Brothers podcast. This is episode 63. I'm your host, Joe Worthington. Turo Ward.
Hello.
Paul Fotofili.
G'day, mate.
And we've got homeboy Rob Cooper in the house today.
Hello.
Welcome, bruh. This is my first time recording the show, so who can say? Could go really well, could go really bad. If you notice anything, don't let us know because we'll probably know about it ourselves once we stop recording and press play on the file. But hopefully it all goes sweet. We've gotten together. We didn't get to shoot last week or record last week because we've got renos going on in the gym. And the renos are happening because we received news this week that the gym can reopen from this coming Saturday, 13th of June, which we're super pumped about. So we've had a bunch of things going on. But one of the big projects is do you want to tell us about the deck that we got going on at the front?
Oh, yeah, we've got a 60 square metre deck out the front of our gym getting built out of a sustainable hardwood. That is a
Spotted gum.
Spotted gum, yeah. Spotted gum is beautiful and nice big wide battens. And it's going to give us another 60 squares of movement space, which I think is really important at this time because we're going to have to spread everyone out a little bit and just means we can run one extra class in our behemoth of a gym.
Big shout out to the construction team, JB Construction Team.
We have the JB Construction crew. That's Stefan, Marek, Aaron,
Carl.
Joel, Derek.
There's going to be
the
others.
list goes on and on. Just great.
There'll be others.
Sick.
Yeah, it's immense. It's a huge thing. It looks beautiful. Complements our garden fantastically, and it is going to provide an epic training space. A third one for the gym. So yeah, on that, if you want to train with us or you're looking for any information about it, find us at junglebrothers.com or at Jungle Brothers Movement on Instagram.
And if you want a deck or a fence built, then have a chat with Ben Fencing.
Ben Fencing.
Yeah, that's Steve Lyons' brother's company, and they've looked after us with our wood.
Very nice.
Fantastic guys. Really lovely.
We should probably mention as well, with the opening of the gym, we will continue live classes, Zoom classes.
Most def. Yeah, we made the decision that we don't want to let the live broadcast go. So we have a lot of people who have really found that that's integrated well into their lifestyle, and they're keen to do kind of a hybrid or a combination of face-to-face classes and online. So we're keeping it going for as long as it's viable. And at the moment, we're pretty confident that it's going to be a viable thing for us, right?
Yeah.
Paulie's leading the tech department on that and figuring out the whole broadcast setup.
I'm high tech.
He's a high-tech guy.
I bought a webcam.
The training a bunch of gym jocks how to use technology is not always an easy task, but you've done a good job of that so far, bro.
Yeah, it looks pimped downstairs.
Just got to make
Hey,
it
gym
very
jock, I'm
English.
blushing. Oh,
Yeah.
Wow, you're almost a gym jock. I think we're all a bit of that. Bit of an open chat today. The reason we want to talk about the idea of getting gains in your training through a sustained and I suppose minimal effort. And what I mean by that, Robbie, you really kind of embody this for me, which is why I was keen to have you in for the chat. Is the idea that you don't have to train a huge amount of time each week. You only have to do a little bit. But if you can do that for a long period of time, so on a consistent basis, you will make excellent results from it. And I think that you, as a person in our gym, amongst others, embody that very much so. Purely just because what do you train with us? Twice a week?
Yeah, it's usually twice a week. If I get 3 sessions in, I'm having a good week. But yeah, I'm sort of limited by time really. So I've got, 3 girls at home, a wife, I run a business. So
three kids and then the wife?
that's correct. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I should have put it that way.
Yep.
4 girls at home. Woo.
Killing it.
Yeah. So yeah, with all of that in the business, I don't often get too much sort of free time to do my training. So, but I try to make a effort to at least get 2 sessions in, and that's pretty much been my go-to for 5 years now with JB's.
OG.
Yeah.
So that's 2 sessions a week and 1 dance party a year.
At the minimum.
That
one
we
dance
know
party.
about.
Yeah.
Supervised. One supervised.
Tell us more about this dance party comment, Joe.
Yeah, one of those dance parties is like having, 6 sessions a week too. So.
Robbie's a fan alongside us of the electronic music.
Absolutely.
He does. He likes good.
Likes getting to a couple of gigs throughout the year.
Who's your faves, Robbie?
Look, wouldn't say I have a favourite, but I've probably got a top 5. Hernan Cattaneo, Elke Klein, Yotto, Lane 8, and I can't think of the 5th right now.
There's a lot of nodding going
top
on
4
here.
right there, yeah.
Yeah. People are
I'd say
excited.
Yotto and Lane 8 are high up there for me lately.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff.
Yeah, it does sound like a bit of a Jungle Brothers playlist there.
Definitely.
It's good.
Funny story about that. I had, you might have seen on my Instagram, Alan, who I used to train. It was a guy. His name's Alan
Oh, yes.
Thompson. He was my first client when I became an official PT at Anytime Fitness in Surrey Hills. And he owned a cafe up the road called Bang Bang. And it was a really, really cool cafe, really nice little spot. And anyway, he asked me what I did, and I told him I was a trainer, and he ended up coming to train with me for a couple of years, and that sort of sparked him on this journey. And he's now, he got very much into his bodybuilding, and I think he started training with me. He was maybe 50, maybe, I think he was 50. So anyway, huge progress at a later stage in life. Very dedicated guy. But he came over to my place. He hasn't been able to lift weights throughout the lockdown, and he's actually like a bit of an addict. So he's like, mate, can I come and lift your barbell?
Yep.
So he said, yeah, come around. And he came around on a Monday night, and another friend of Misa of ours came around, who's a gym owner, friend of ours. And we're all hanging out. And you wouldn't know this when you look at Alan, but he had a 24-year career as a Ministry of Sound DJ in the UK. He had a residency in Ibiza. He was like, he was the guy at the time. And this is going back, I guess his career was probably like mid-80s onwards. So he was mixing it up with like Carl Cox and Danny Tenaglia and even like early David Guetta and like those level of
That's
DJs.
it, speaking of OGs.
Right?
Yep.
And it was real funny because he was before the time of social media, and he's not currently a DJ. So you don't know about his stuff. And I brought it up because I thought, this would be interesting. And Sean, our mate who was there, he said, did you play with like any of the, like, did you know any of the big DJs at the time? And Alan looked at him and said, I was a big DJ, mate. Sean was like, oh, fuck. It was so, but it's funny that he had those two lives, that whole thing, like he was at the pinnacle of it for over 2 decades. And then now he's now he's in the coffee business and lifting weights and whatever.
He doesn't DJ at all anymore, hey?
No, he still has an interest. And actually, you might remember when we were at our last, or maybe it was our annual directors meeting last year or the year before at Electric Gardens.
He was on the stage.
We saw him on stage, yeah. So
Oh, really?
Yeah. Do you remember?
I don't remember much.
So he might have been having a conversation with someone. But yeah, we were like bopping around. It was Nicole Madaba that was playing. She's a Spanish girl, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So that was the one with the deep voice? Deep.
yeah, that's her.
She's awesome.
Real weird, like kind of
Yeah,
weird,
yeah.
Yeah.
And
I thought she was transvestite when I was listening to her on the radio.
I
And
thought
saw
that
her
too.
and you can tell that she's not, but
Yeah.
she's a very deep voice.
super deep. It's funny, in Spain, I noticed that a lot of women have deep voices. I don't know what it is, but yeah, he was up
They
on
weren't
stage.
women, Joe.
It was just at this one club that I always went to. Anyway, they love me there. Yeah, good Spain. But yeah, he was up on stage and we were like, and he caught us. And we were like, oh, hey. So he's still there, and I think he does play the occasional gig. But yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure it's inbred in him, mate. He'd definitely still be a part of it.
it'd be hard to let it go, right?
Absolutely. Why would you?
That's right. Mate, tell us about the first time you came to our gym. I like that story.
Yeah, so I actually moved into Pemberton Street, where the gym used to be. And before that, I lived in Matraville. I was in a little house there with a garage, and I had my own setup. I was doing like ring work and some weights and some body weight sort of training. And looking back on it now, it was all pretty bad the way I was doing it, but nonetheless, I was doing it. And so I moved into Botany, and basically where we live now, you couldn't put anything up on the walls like a chin-up bar or any kind of equipment because it would just collapse on you. So I noticed the gym, and I popped in, and I think you were getting a massage at the time.
In the gym.
In the gym, yeah. Some shoulder work, something like that. And
Remember when Robin used to give us a massage
Okay.
Yep.
Exchange for membership.
in exchange for membership?
Yeah, wow.
So I'm like in the gym. I got my top off, lying on the middle of the gym, like on the massage bed, getting a massage.
Just weird.
Our gym was only 90 meters squared, by the way. It's like a double garage.
Yeah,
Pretty
Wasn't it?
much with a high ceiling.
Yeah,
that's right.
that's it. That was all that was in there, and a couple of was in there. It was like one rack, two chin-up bars,
Yep.
because it still had that fucking platform that they put over the hole in the middle.
Oh, when we were first in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe 2 racks.
Oh
Oh,
gosh,
shit, it was pretty minimal.
it's tiny. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I approached Joe and I said, look, mate, don't really want to be a member of this gym, but I would like to use, I'd like to use the floor space because I haven't got anywhere to train at the apartment I just moved into. And Joey just said, look, it's not really our thing to do that. However, why don't you just come in and do some sessions on me? And after
Start
that,
with the shoulder rub.
after that, if you're not sort of happy with what we do, then we can talk about you coming in just to do your own thing. And 5 years later, I'm still here. Yeah, so...
Yeah, our marketing strategy's changed
Yeah.
since then as well.
Our sales approach as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I went in for a couple of weeks, did a couple of days a week my usual 2 days a week, and just loved it. Still do. And be here forever.
Can I ask, because I've never really had the convo with you, but prior to that, or in your younger years and stuff, did you play footy, or were you doing any other form of training? Did you go through?
Yeah, I mean, a good friend of mine, he's actually a personal trainer. He's in Sweden now. We used to train a bit together. In regards to sport, I played a little bit of like indoor soccer, outdoor soccer, little bits of tennis. I had a little go at footy, but that was a long time ago. Sort of always kept sort of active, and I enjoy my sport, participating and watching it. But yeah, so I've always sort of had that in me to, keep
Be
fit
physical.
and just be physical. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
What inspired you with the training that you were doing by yourself? Working on the rings and lifting weights, like that combination of things is not necessarily very common 5 years ago.
Just through what my mate taught me, basically. He's certainly evolved since then as well. So,
What's he
haven't we
doing
all?
now?
yeah, he's PTing in Sweden. So
Okay,
he's married. He's got a few boys himself now.
Fucking lockdown over there now.
Yeah.
Is it?
Oh yeah. All went fucking gangbusters, isn't it?
Yeah, right. They decided that their relaxed
Business as
approach
usual.
wasn't working.
Yeah, definitely. Problem is, like, I was speaking to Anton, his name is, and he was just telling me like freaking half the country smokes, so it's going to go stupid there
Oh.
at some point, And I think
The big
it's-
smokers in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, big
Never
smokers.
been there.
How about that? I wouldn't have thought so.
Yeah, me either. Until we mentioned it. Yeah.
But yeah, right. So he was a bit of an influence for you getting into that mix of training styles.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I just figured, especially when I had my first child, Mia, I just had this notion in my head that I've got to keep fit, for the family and obviously for myself as well. And it's a good avenue to obviously stay healthy, but also you just need your own time as well, and that's my time. And I might as well use that sort of time to improve my health.
Come
You
away
don't
from
like
it.
sitting at the bar?
Of course
Knocking
I
back
do.
skewies?
Of course I do, but
Pokies?
Yeah, they're open again. Been open for weeks, mate.
yeah, but I've got to stay disciplined. You know me. Go hard or stay home, so I better stay home.
Or go hard at the gym.
Yeah, well, that's it.
What I think, and I kind of wanted to get into it with all, because you guys are all fathers. You've all got kids, and so I think that probably this question extends to everyone at the table. But is there do you have to change your expectations on your training when you are training around managing a family as well and a business? Because I'm sure at times you've had more freedom to train, and obviously, Rob, I know you'd rather do more than 2 sessions a week.
Yeah.
And especially in a gym like ours where there's people who are training a lot more than that, and it's visible in some of the results of what they're getting and, the handstands and the bodyweight stuff and whatever. They just have, more time to give to it. Do you find yourself having to manage expectations around that on an ongoing basis?
Yeah, I think you have to have a realistic approach when it comes to being limited by how many days a week you can train. Like, I put down on the board
The goals board.
Last year. I want to do a 30-second free stand handstand, and that's just an unrealistic goal for me because there's just no way I'm going to be able to put the amount of time needed to reach that goal. And I think I had it there. I needed to set that goal by the 26th of December last year, and where are we now? And I'm still kicking up to the wall. So you do need to manage your expectations. So, but yeah, I'm definitely seeing the improvements with my range of motion and my strength, doing the slow approach over a long time. Yeah.
What do you think the biggest changes have been that have taken place over the 5 years? That stuff that keeps coming back.
Look, for me, core strength, definitely core strength. My range of motion is getting better. I can touch my toes
It's come
now,
a long
which
way,
is
actually.
fantastic. I haven't been able to do that for a long time.
That's right.
I don't think I've ever been able to do that. Flexibility's starting to, reap some more rewards. It's still got a long way to go on that. Definitely.
It's still possible to chase goals with 2 days a week. I mean, you just have to get a bit more specific with your structure, and the stuff that you're doing within those classes needs structure as well.
That's right.
Yeah, I would argue that, like with your handstand, I mean, if you remember the original goals board and then the subsequent goals boards that were created after that, I think I had one arm chin up on it for like 4 years.
Yeah.
And I'm further from it now than I ever was. But it also, like the goal thing, so in that regard, I don't, no regrets because it guided my training for a period. And then when I changed my focus and sort of it became unimportant to me. But say for you with the handstand, I've seen your progress with your mobility and with your positioning and all that stuff. You're probably going to get a 30-second handstand. It's just not going to happen by that specific date, which is now past. But you're probably going to get one in, like, say, the next couple of years.
Yep.
And I would argue that if you hadn't said it, you probably wouldn't be working on it.
That's right.
And I'm sure you haven't been over COVID. It's not been a great focus for you day to day. But once the gym's back up and you're back in here, I would imagine that you'll start chipping away at it again.
That's it, absolutely. Actually, the other thing I did notice, you had put a post up back in the old gym. I think I cleaned your whip, and you said, let's take a photo, and we were both squatting. And I came back to that photo somehow through a memory on Facebook or something like that. And my squat was shit house.
It's good now, hey.
Like it was,
so
my knees were together and I couldn't get any range and I was quite high on it. But now, my squats, I would say it's pretty damn good. So
you work. I've seen those pictures that you've posted a few times. For people listening, you have what's your name of your business?
RC Car Care.
RC Car Care.
Robert Cooper Car Care. That's right.
And what do you do?
So it's an automotive detailing business.
Yep.
I specialise in like paint restoration and ceramic coating installation. So you buy a new car and the dealer's trying to sell you their, protection packages. Just say no and come to me, basically. Yeah, you're going to get a better product, a better service, better prep. And it's going to cost you less as well. So
plug it.
Yeah,
but in your industry, you're around cars, and the videos you posted. I mean, you're detailing. You're down on the side of cars.
Yeah, it's
challenging,
labor intensive work, and I mean, a lot of guys, if they're polishing the bottom end of a car, they'll sit on a stool. But I just squat. I squat down. I Cossack through it.
Cossack. So I saw that one. It's mad.
And that's probably another reason why my squat's getting a lot better. But I've working in that way, and I've got to attribute that to the training I do here. You know, without learning those techniques, you know, I'd be sitting on a stool as well. You know, so
Yeah,
it
that's so good.
Helps me keep fit while I'm working as well.
Going back to the original time management question, I totally agree. You have to, you have to be pretty fluid with the management of your time and expectations. What being a father also and a business owner, and I found goals have to change, and I have to be okay with that sometimes. And just thinking about like how you squat at work, stuff like that. And I think about how I've come to where I've been, and I think about fathers and people who are time poor, and the way that I approach the training is you have to somehow make your lifestyle conducive with training and movement. Yep. So you're trying to basically stack elements of your life together. So like you spend time with your kids, but you make that physical, and you play outside, and you have your work, and you're doing your job, and you're reinforcing the range that you worked hard at and the knowledge that you built in the gym, and you use that at work. And I feel like those type of things that you're doing at work is 100% like why you've continue making gains, because you learn and use specific stuff in the gym. Yep. And that's 2 sessions, that's 2 hours. And then you got all the rest of the hours in the week to express that. And by doing that in the shop, it's 100% helping for sure.
Yeah, the training is translating into everyday life.
It's functional fitness, bro.
Super dad. Super dad.
And credit where credit is due. Anytime you squat, you should mention to the people around you that Jungle Brothers taught you that.
Right. Yeah. We'll put a little JB
logo on my shirt too.
No, I think just above the butt crack. So when the shirt rides up,
a tattoo
made by JB.
Yeah, I'll get a tattoo.
Yeah. Property of.
Oh God.
What about you two? You just kind of responded a bit there, but like in terms of expectations, and like Paul, you've had Lucia.
Yeah.
Was she like a few months old?
5 months old.
Wow.
T, another one coming. So, do you find that you hit a point where you're like, fuck, like, sleepless nights or whatever, and when your training's sucking?
Yeah.
Talk about
that. The expectations thing I learnt over time. Like when we first had a kid, or when we first got busy with the business and stuff like that. And you've got whatever goal set that you got at the time, and maybe you don't reach it. And then you do it again and you're not reaching it. You have to be adaptable, and over basically the less time I've had to have training pursuits, put simply, the longer the better I've come at basically setting those expectations. And what I do is I look at the long game. I'm looking at the long game all the time, and I tell people, a lot of fathers, that all the time. It's like the idea that you look at a graph. And if you look too closely, it looks like it's going up and down all the time. But if you step further back from it, what you want is for it to be just slowly going up over time. And my expectations, my idea of training is totally evolved into the idea that I want to be healthy. It's a long-term thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not looking just to do a short sprint. So, that type of thinking really, really helps me. Yeah.
What about you, T-Bone, as someone who chases, you zero in on some pretty...
Very high expectations, Joe.
Very high.
Very.
And I share those for you. What, like with the straps and all that, and like you, at one point there, you were very close to getting a press to handstand. Unfortunately, you never got it. That's just the lights.
We're on.
I think, yeah.
Has it got power? We just had our lights go out, if you're listening. Lights powered down.
It has nothing to do with Joel.
No, we're still
recording.
JK, guys, don't use JK.
Take
any electrical work.
I got a Sparky doing electrical work downstairs, so it's like, don't hit the wrong breaker, please.
But yeah, so with those more kind of lofty goals, are you just like, same deal, or is there something that goes on?
I kind of plod along. Like I've never had any high expectations out of one particular session. So if I go into a session and I'm feeling good, then I push it. And if I'm not, then I don't. And I really don't take into consideration what's happened before or after, because sometimes you can get up in the morning and you're full of energy and you're like, fuck, I'm going to have the best session ever. And then you get in and you feel like shit and you're lifting light and everything's coming apart, and then you beat yourself up for the rest of the day. And then other times you have 4 hours sleep, you get in the gym and you kill it, and you're like, fuck, where did that come from? You know?
Yeah.
So I think it's just more for me. It's just about the process and enjoying that time and space. Like Robbie was saying, it's his time, and that's pretty much all it is for me now. And anything that I gain in progressions from that is just a bonus, really. At this stage, I'm just happy to be uninjured. And it's a fucking ass kicker, to be honest. I'm kicking everyone's ass in this shit.
Yes.
Actually, that's probably
Still.
something else I should add.
Yeah.
Is injuries. You know, like
Yeah, for sure.
that's like I used to battle with not hugely painful like back pains and stuff like that. And
I remember the back pain.
yeah, that's right. But all that's just gone. You know, I had some shoulder issues, no more. Even some knee, issues. Nothing major, but with all the training, all that's alleviated. So
And it's so good. Like, it's allowed you to try. You're trying cool things in the gym, I've seen, but more recently, just pre-COVID, strap the gloves on, and it was like,
that's right.
I
my
can
ass whooped.
do this if I want. And now you're coming for tea. This supposed ass kicker. Dude.
Robbie's been dodging Fight Factory for 5 years now.
That's right.
And he's decided to not just join Fight Factory, but join into like the
Spar
tight
sessions.
group of not even sparring. It's like the advanced sparring session.
The Fight Club.
Yeah, the fight. It's a fight club. Chucked his gear on and just jumped in there, and they're not going easy on you.
No.
They're fucking giving it to you.
I've had some
He's
bruised
got
ribs
some-
and stuff.
He's got grit, that's for sure. He's just swinging.
Great. I was very, very impressed with that.
Yeah.
What drew you to that?
Look, definitely something new. I used to do a little bit of karate when I was really young, but never really sort of progressed. And I just thought, give it a go,
Throw down.
New mezzanine
my
went
ass
up,
whooped.
and it's like kind of
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Obviously, it's certainly, you watch UFC and you're like, yeah, I could do that.
Don't get me right. Should have fucking blocked it and punched the guy. That's what I would have done.
That's right. Just get up. Just get up. Just stand up.
Just lying on each other.
Next minute I'm walking back to the car with my toe in between my legs. Oh shit, those ribs are going to be hurting for a while.
And once you've gone in once, you have to come back.
That's it. I'm not giving up, mate. I just bought all the equipment. Yeah,
You
I
go
really
to
enjoy it. It's what I really enjoy about it is like when you're in those moments and you're getting tired, you really need to sort of try to focus and, think about what you're doing and, blocking, putting some combinations in there. So I think that's sort of stage one of what I'm taking out of sparring, so it's a long way to go.
Being present. What about jits? Did you ever get on the mats?
No, I've never
Joey?
done that. Yeah, never done that.
Are you going to have a go?
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't know if it interests me too much, to be honest.
Well, you don't want me kind
Rubbing his balls.
of 69 you with clothes on?
Dry humping. It's dry humping.
I certainly respect it.
It's called combat.
Yeah. I certainly respect the skill and the technique, required to be, good at that. But I don't know. It's just, I think I'd just rather
Punch something.
punch someone in
Bash
the
some
head.
balls. It's very understandable. It's like there's a lot of it is like that for a lot of people. It's just like, no, I'm not interested in that style.
Yeah.
And I get it.
It's fucking hard.
Works both ways.
Jiu-jitsu, for me, it hurts. It just hurt.
Hurts
Yeah, hurts.
like post training. Like the body
like
gets
everywhere
beat
I
up.
don't want to hurts.
Yeah.
I get up next morning, I'll be like, oh, that hurts. Then I'll move something else. And I'm like, oh, it fucking hurts too.
It's true, but it doesn't hurt as much in the moment. Like when
that's
like
the
say when I
problem,
get
though.
punched in the face, I'm like, that's alarming.
That's alarming.
Yeah,
Who punched
that's
you?
an upsetting sensation.
Not when I punch you.
I felt euphoric after you punched me that time. If anyone's seen that video when I sort of go off with the feathers
That's
for
the
a moment.
best video ever.
That's great. That when you boys were in the ring.
Yeah,
that
you
was
seen
awesome.
that?
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, it was awesome.
Paul
bring it back
just
out.
Paul just cracked me, and I'm like, if I go somewhere else for a little while.
The legs just locked out. That's all I remember. 2 legs just locking out.
Stomps the ground a little.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh fuck! But yeah, right. It's a funny kind of paradigm, isn't it?
Yeah.
That, you know, there's discomfort that comes from both, but it's kind of different.
Yeah, I think you have to be a very special human to like both. And like watching how many, like I thought there'd be a lot of cross pollination between the striking and the jits in our class, and it hasn't been that. There's a few, and they're the fucking diehards. You know what I mean? But and it just like that small percentage of the martial arts population that take on two different, like a grappling style and a striking style, a very special human being. I think they're just like they can take lots of pain, or they like inflicting lots of pain, one or the other.
Yeah, and I think you got to have time, right?
Yeah, and lots of time.
Like that's the thing. If you like, say you come to sparring on a Thursday in Fight Factory, and then you get your ass kicked, and then you think, oh, I'm going to go do jiu-jitsu the next week. It's like, nah, you should go learn. Like you should go fight. Like do some more Fight Factory, right? Like it almost forces you to stick with that thing.
Yeah, so you can get good at it.
Yeah, so you can actually start to attain some skill.
Unless you're like martial arting 2 hours a day every day,
Exactly.
which has its own issues that come with that. you know?
Yeah. Fuck. You're burning the candle at both ends for sure.
yeah.
I love the UFC for that, for watching the specialty fighters versus the MMA fighters type thing. You know, you got the
like
fighters.
styles?
So you got like a striking specialist who's been doing it all their life, and then they learn wrestling and ground game to complement it, and they fight in the UFC. And then you got the reverse, the wrestlers and whatnot that learn striking.
Yeah.
And then you got the younger generation who just start doing MMA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I just
Got it all.
It's so interesting for me. That's why the UFC is so cool,
Yeah,
because all the matchups
certainly evolving,
and the
isn't it?
trends, you know, and that's just sick. Just watching people like that. But
Do you ever watch One?
yes, I do. I love One.
What is
Love
that?
it.
One FC. Yeah,
Is
One FC.
it MMA or is it?
I can't
Strike?
really.
It's a bit of everything.
It's a bit of everything. It depends. And they have tournaments. Yeah, I don't know it enough to be able to just give you the whole what is it, but they have like Muay Thai
I
championship
wanna start
fights
watching it.
or kickboxing fights, and then they have full MMA bouts as well.
They have grappling only events or no?
Yeah, I think they
Maybe.
do. I think
Yeah?
they do. Yeah.
But they're like the biggest. I think
They're bigger than the UFC.
bigger than the UFC statistically, because they've got the Asian market, etc. But
Oh, okay.
and there's seriously quality
free.
in their ranks, and it's free to watch YouTube.
Oh, really?
Oh, well.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
the
you
events are live on YouTube.
So their only income then comes through like ticket sales and
Sponsorship. I don't know.
Sponsorship.
Like,
They're probably just pumping money into it to get an A, like to get
market share.
Yeah, and then they'll charge something for it.
You'd have to,
and maybe
right?
the UFC has to put a lot of money, in contrast, into the sport, because it's kind of, I don't know, new. They're blood people. They have a lot of fighters in their stalls, whereas like One FC just has, there's Muay Thai fighters everywhere. You know, you can
Good one.
throw a rock and hit one over in Asia, and you know, there's just I think
Over in
there's,
Asia.
yeah, there's heaps. There's like so many quality fighters in there. It's crazy.
Yeah. I thought throw a rock. Oh, you can throw rocks in there as well. Interesting.
I think the guy that runs it too, the CEO, he's got is it Sid Chatri, Sid
Okay.
Yong Tong?
Right.
He's got a very good reputation amongst the fighters as
Okay,
looking
yes.
after them and being
Yeah.
very,
Right. Yeah.
unlike Dana White, the CEO,
my
of the, or
God.
the, whatever the head of UFC, who's, kind of always a bit of a contrasting character.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. I love it because it's free too. Like just saying, it's free. I can just
They're
go there and
pushing the
watch some
martial
quality
arts
fighting
thing.
for free.
Yeah.
Like he's big on respecting the fighters and the crowds, being
Yes.
respectful to the fighters and
Totally.
just respectful of the arts.
Yeah, I don't think they
You can't-
use
no
any
slap
shit
downs,
talking.
no
like
shit
there's no
talking.
shit talking in their promos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've seen in all the videos are like promotions for the fighters, not
They just
the
talk
beef.
nicely
I
about
do
each
love
other.
the shit talking.
Yeah, but
God, I love the shit talking.
that's what draws you to the fight. That's
what sells it, huh?
Powerful marketing tool.
Imagine getting beaten up and then have to talk nice to someone.
God,
I don't
I
think
know.
I'd enjoy that.
Well, they always talk nice after,
After,
right?
yeah.
Pretty much.
Like no one's got beef once someone's had their fucking face smashed in. But in that lead up, the UFC loves like drawing it out of people, trying to get them to rip into each other. And actually, whether it's the UFC that does it, it's the fighters that do it, like Conor McGregor, who was very successful with it. So other fighters emulate that because they're like, well, that's how I'm going to get success. So just
Get
naturally,
noticed.
yeah, they
Yeah.
start talking shit as well.
The general public loves spectacle.
Yeah.
Mm.
You notice
Nice.
Donald
Nice.
Trump had what did he have?
Fuck Donald Trump.
I
bro.
can't. No, he's fucking,
Fuck that
mate, he's
guy.
a powerful leader. Okay? I'm kidding, guys. You saw he had like at the beginning of COVID, he had like I can't remember what it was called, but it was like an economic task force or like, a group of people he put together to help bring the American economy back to, its former strength.
They're wearing vests, bulletproof vests.
No, they were essentially all the leaders of sports organizations. So Dana White was in it. He had like head of the San Antonio Spurs baseball team, owners, and the idea was get sports back as quick as we can because sports are what the people want. And it goes back to that same thing that they would use in the Roman Empire where when shit was falling apart in society, they would put gladiatorial events on to distract the populace from whatever, the fact that they were taxing them double or that everyone was dying from malnutrition or...
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
What a fucking...
So that's why the
Piece of
UFC has been allowed to, like, they've been hosting events for the last few weeks.
Of course.
They've had
Wow.
certain restrictions, but
Yeah.
but you're like, how the fuck did this go ahead?
Oh my gosh.
Like, how did this go ahead when, like, the NBA, the NHL, the NFL, all of those leagues cancelled 2020? They all said, like, we're shutting for 2020. Like, that's the
Yeah.
response thing to do. And UFC's like, no, we're going to hold events. And, like, good, well done to them, right? Like, they were persistent.
I think
They got it.
they're not as big as like all the NBA and NHL and stuff because they're new and they don't have as much cash. And I heard it also there was some pressure because of the ESPN deal that they made.
Right.
So they had a contract to have 145 events on. 40 something events on in the year, and that's 52 weeks. And as soon as it shut down, the more weeks they stopped, the more they were having to compound them towards it. I don't know if there was any truth to that, but I hear that the back end of the year, once it opens, there's just going to be heaps of events. There's going to be heaps of fights on, which is something to look forward to.
Yeah, that's
Or
right.
they're trying to,
Well, there's a lot of fucking turmoil going on over there, even in the sporting world. What's the name of the NFL guy with the big hair that kneeled on one leg?
Kaepernick.
And then, what was the deal? He got fired. Did he not get allowed to play again, or can he play again? Or
I don't know the full story. Yeah, but obviously
he's hitting headlines at the moment.
Yeah, he
Again.
is. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think the whole thing about the kneeling and then the photos. I saw a lot of photos comparison of him kneeling and then the George Floyd thing, and this is why.
Yeah, it became a bit of an
it was
act of defiance, a common act of defiance and a symbolic thing. So everyone takes a knee. And then you got the police and stuff on the other side also showing their respect by
same thing.
taking the knee. So yeah, there's a lot of imagery of him going around at the moment, yeah.
Yeah, and there was something else about him that I forgot what it was. If it comes back, I'll let you guys know.
Yeah, it's funny with sports people because with what's going on, and we're kind of going off the topic
Systemic
at the moment.
racism is
Go
what
off
we're
it.
talking about.
Good. Go
yeah,
there.
yeah, but sports figures and any fucking pundit, like you say anything right now, and you
You don't want to say anything racist.
don't want to say anything.
now.
Yeah, well,
You just
that happened, and there's
don't
another
do
guy
that.
in the NFL that said something the
anytime.
other day about the flag,
It's
and
unacceptable.
and you
Were
know
these-
everyone jumped on him, and now he's apologizing to everyone. And
Holy shit.
yeah,
Was he white or black?
white.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
White guy.
Yeah, now's not the time.
Somewhere
No.
in the breeze. Or
No,
something.
never. There's no time really when you think about it. You know.
Well,
be
it's also
racist.
it's interesting too though because part of the whole thing is that people need to have open discussions.
Yeah, people are
right?
trying to work it out.
So
It's hard.
in a way, you're like, all right, if you actually have a
Yeah.
view that would be considered racist, like
Yeah.
or
or offensive or
tell us that view
insensitive.
and talk about it.
Yeah, and that-
rather than like to
Yeah.
harbor that shit deep within and
Yeah, and then the problem is like if they say something, they're either scared to say something because people are going to shoot them down, or when they say something, people shoot them down. So like just criticizing people or condemning them for something they said is not helping either. So
But if you are a racist, then don't come to Jungle Brothers.
pretty much.
it's true. Stay the fuck out.
No, well,
Fuck
let
out
me
of
change
our
your
gym.
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
One of those signs at the front.
that's a great
You're a
point too,
racist.
isn't
Let me
it?
change your mind.
Like you would, like you want to, like say I saw Israel Adesanya, UFC middleweight champion. He was going to talk at a rally in Auckland, and he posted about it, and then someone, obviously, he's got 1 billion followers. There was, there's always going to be a bunch of comments of people that are having a go at you, and essentially making racist remarks in that situation.
And he does a lot of interacting with his with
he's
his,
on.
with
Yeah,
his social
he's pretty
media.
on
Well,
there.
even the trolls and
He
shit.
loves it.
Yeah, and one of the trolls was like, man, like, why are you bringing that shit here? Like, there's no problems in New Zealand. Like, fucking leave it in America or something like that. And his response was, fuck you, you're racist, unfollow me. And I thought, like, that's cool. Like, it's cool that he's so definite about, who he is and what he stands for. But at the same time, you almost, and no, who's got the time to do this, but you want to engage with that kind of mentality because it's like, well, what do you, if they were to have a good sort of discourse back and forth, then perspectives could be broadened for that guy and maybe for Adesanya himself. But it's so hard, like, because, well, I mean, it's hard for someone like that when you've got 10,000 comments when you put a post up on Instagram, But I believe the conversation is very challenging for just a regular person to have. For me, as someone who posts some shit on Instagram and not anything that's particularly deep, I've been wanting to talk about it, but I'm like, I don't know how to talk about it. Like, I don't know what I would say. That doesn't sound like I'm trying to just signal to everyone, hey, I'm not racist. Like, look at the good thing I'm doing. You know what I mean?
I do.
I think it's also very important to pull people up when you see it. Like, you gotta, people need to know that it's unacceptable, like whether that's your view or not, like to persecute anyone else for something that's different to you, like some kind of fucking bigotry or shit like that. It's just unacceptable, at the end of the day. And I think if they're views that you hold, then that needs to be, they need to be told.
Checked.
Yeah, need to be checked. And I think a lot of the times, the problem with today is that you're in this echo chamber, especially when all of your conversations are screened by algorithms and you say something out into the world and all the shit that you're saying just gets verified by others that are saying the same thing, but nobody's challenging you. And this happens on both sides. I can tell you right now, like, my feed is very, very different to, say, somebody who's, sitting like far right. And I have to check myself because I know that I'm getting shown reinforcing my views on life, on everything. And I think this is very fucking dangerous, to be honest. And it's creating a rift in humanity at the moment. But when you have leaders that sit up there and fuel that fire, then things start to really come unstuck, And that's what I think that we're seeing a little bit of today. And I was talking to someone this morning about it, and they said, well, what are you going to do about it? It's like, well, we're going to fucking talk about it. I talk about it because this kind of shit spreads like a fucking disease or like a virus. And then when you see that stuff start popping up in your own neighborhood, you have to be like, you know what, man? I'm going to check this guy on that.
Hell yeah.
Unacceptable.
Yeah, I think the conversations is key, and trying to have a space where you can have conversations, whether it's online and someone says something, you don't want to shoot them down and tell them to unfollow you, but rather, I think the better thing is to have them continue follow you, and you lead by example.
Try and influence
them, and change their mind, as I said. But the conversations is where it's at, whether it's checking someone on something and trying to bring it up, but you can't just ignore it. Can you?
Has anyone here been a victim of racism?
Yes.
You got a good story.
Do I have a good one?
Yeah.
Do I?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Can't remember it.
Oh, the guy at the bar in America who didn't like me being Australian?
No. I think it was the girlfriend in, was she Vietnamese, maybe? You don't remember that story?
No.
I don't want to say it because it's your story, and then if you might turn around after the podcast, say, I didn't want to fucking talk about that.
You know me, bro. I'm an open book.
When you walked in the room, he was like,
That was a beauty.
yeah,
I
good
can't
one.
remember this.
I was
Go on, tell us.
It was story time, guys. Get a cup of coffee, hot drink. Uncle Joe's got a towel. No, it was when I used to hang out at Top Ride. I was in a little gang there, Top Ride boys, and one of the guys, Jason, who was like the token Asian dude in the group, he was from Laos, or his parents were from Laos, because it was like a couple Tongan kids, a couple Filipino kids, Jason, and then I was like the white kid, and Jason's mum lived out. She lived in Cabramatta, and so when we were teenagers, Cabramatta was like a heavy part of town. I mean, we weren't, when I say we, I never went out there. So all I knew of Cabramatta was that like what you saw in the news, which was that it had Asian gangs and that there was a lot of heroin sold and that you'd probably get shanked if you went out there.
It was actually a pretty scary place.
It was,
back in
wasn't
those
it?
days. Yeah.
Yeah. It had a lot of
Big
immigrants
gangs
from
and lots of drugs.
Cabra.
So Cabra. So Jason was like, "Man, do you want to come stay at my mum's house?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, that sounds cool." And he's like, "Yeah, just come out. We'll hang out for the night and then come back the next day." So we went out there, and she lived in like this, like one of those housing community kind of things with the funny circular roads and the houses all look the same, whatever. And we were hanging out at her place. And there wasn't much going on, and he said, "Oh, let's go down and visit my friend." And he had like this girlfriend that lived around the corner. And he's like, "Yeah, she's like a friend of mine. I go and hang out with her when I'm here." So we went around to her place, and she was a little bit older, and we were probably like 15, and she was a bit older. She was like 16 or 17 or something like that. And we're hanging out at her place, and she was real nice, and we're not really doing anything. You know, it's like at that age, you're just not really doing much. You just sit around the house. And then she tells Jace, "Oh, like so-and-so's coming around." And Jace's like, "Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, sick. That'll be cool." And then Jace turns to me and goes, "Hey, just so you know, like her boyfriend and some of his friends are coming around." And I'm like, oh, "Okay, cool." And the way he told me was just kind of like, they're a little bit heavy. Like I could just detect like, oh, like there's not going to be trouble, but they're older and they're kind of heavy dudes. And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And,
Then the anxiety kicks in.
yeah, and I'm like, Cabramatta.
It's just after you had a bong.
Jace is Asian, and he's from Laos, and she's from Laos, or Vietnamese or something. And I was like, oh, what?
Sitting around doing nothing.
I apologize. They're Australian, right? But their cultural background's different to mine. I'm like, oh, okay, shit, wow. And then a couple moments later, you hear like a few cars pulling up. It's like fucking WRXs and big exhaust pipes and shit. Yeah, blah, 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 blah.
Drifters.
And so I remember sitting on the couch
I've never heard
and
this story.
this crew of dudes walk in, and they're like, they're grown up. They're like 19 or 20 or whatever, and they're like double denim, long hair, like if anyone who knew the Asian
3T.
gangs in the night, 5T,
5T.
yeah, Singwat kind of vibe, like fringes, long straight hair, tough looking, like
Dragons
bad
on their
looking
clothes.
dudes, and they walked in. And they kind of like scanned the room, and they were like, "Oh, hey, babe," like to his girlfriend or whatever. And she's like, "Hey," and then he's like, "Sup, Jason?" And he's like, "Hey, man, good to see you." And this like the ringleader guy, and then he looks at me and he goes, "What's up, Aussie?" And I was like, "Hey, man."
Justy Pop.
I was like, oh, this is so fucked. And they like kind of sat down there, and then Jason's like, "Oh, I think we're going to get out of here, guys." And they were like, whatever. And then we bailed. But I was like, I felt like I was on an island. Like I was like, I'm so alone. Like, and I don't know, and I had all these, you could say like preconceptions, probably a bunch of misconceptions about who those guys were. And I'm like, these guys are definitely gang members, and they're probably going to fucking stab me and take my $10. And, and I'm in a different part of town and all that. So yeah, thanks for reminding me. That was, I suppose, I mean, you're just having a joke, right? Because here's the thing.
But you get a feel for what it's like. Some people are living like that on a daily basis.
This is true. And that's the thing too, that's a very mild experience with racism compared to what a lot of people would experience in this country, right?
Yes, in this country, which you kind of look at what's going on, you think, "Oh, I'm glad I'm over here," but for a lot of people, it's on your doorstep.
What about
Well,
you?
it's not really racism. That's what I just say. It's not a mild. You said it's not a mild. It was a mild experience.
It's given
It's
it.
just
very
an,
mild.
It's an experience of like social profiling.
taste.
Yeah.
It's like no one was condemned.
No, he never actually said he hated Australians.
No,
or-
it was just a little interchange.
That's a good story, though. I
Fuck
love
yeah,
that.
That is a
Bro.
great story.
Where are you from, bro?
I'd never heard that one. That's great.
That's a good one.
I feel like when you have you ever seen on like Brendan Schaub has a podcast, and like they get little animators that do a little animation out of like a little strip of a story that's told on a podcast. That'd be a great one. That little story that someone made a little animated cartoon to go with the dialogue. Sup, Aussie? Oh, that's
What
so
about
good.
you? I mean, obviously, I don't know if you're listening. Paul is brown and he's Polynesian
Yeah.
from Fiji. Have you ever experienced
Yeah,
any?
yeah.
any
Yeah, I have. I have several times. Which one to share?
Well, how do you deal with it? I mean, if you come across it, or if it feels like it's being aimed at you,
Yeah.
because
Well,
I ask
I'll
you
tell
this
you
because
that-
you're very good at diffusing situations.
Well, okay,
every
so-
time we've been in an argument, you're always the diffuser.
Yeah. So I'll tell you this: like I could share with you an actual story,
Some tools.
but I think this is more useful. And with all the shit that's been going on lately, I have been thinking a lot about it, and I have been thinking a lot about how I deal with it, basically. Which so I've changed my mind this week about a few things, and they're like internal things, and it's basically a bit of self-analysis on how I have reacted in the past, or not reacted in the past, and how I feel, whether I've been honest or not with myself about that shit. I've had plenty of stories. It's like I don't think it's worth telling the stories, but yeah, like as you said, that is my personality, and that's, if you know me, you know that, and I'll often brush off things too easily, and I've had several occasions where I've got friends like in a fury defending me because of racist things that were said to me, and I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm like, it doesn't offend me. Like, everyone settle the fuck down. But I have friends there who are defending it on my behalf, and that's just always been my kind of personality. So that's a situation itself, and it's happened several times. And it's that type of thing. I'm definitely changing my mind about this at this time.
And what kind of changes are you referring to? Like how?
I'm referring to, well, basically, I'm realizing now that I am definitely in a privileged position because I have time and I have the intelligence and the time and the space and the environment to think.
And the education.
And I'm privileged, and I see that I have the time to think about this shit, whereas a lot of people don't. And I think that because of that, I feel like I have a bit of a duty to be more proactive about making that change. When I was in my like prior to these years now, like I've always been I always lead by example. That's one of my things. And I'm quite passive with how I spread my message to the world. So it's just be who I am, spread love all the time. And this week, I think that's not enough anymore.
Yeah.
I feel like I could be more proactive, and I hold a lot of opinions and I watch lots of shit, but it's not part of my narrative. Like, you look at my fucking Instagram and whatnot, it's all love and family, and that's a good message, but I'm currently like building over the years, and we have lots of conversations about this shit, like how fucked up the world is and whatnot, and just things that you see, injustices, and I'm like, I feel like I should, because I can, and just make it more of a fucking thing to talk about. So
Yeah.
I don't know. And I wanted to say, with your thing about don't know how to speak about it, I've written like 3 posts this week that I couldn't post, and it's hard. You can't just flick a switch from one story to this, and then you got all these people who want to say you're jumping on a bandwagon. I mean, fuck that noise. That's so stupid.
Yeah.
Like, I think, people like criticizing how people are reacting. It's just like, let's just look at the issue and talk about that and start working on it, instead of like bickering with each other about
The best
who's
way.
got more knowledge on the matter,
I did one post this week. That was the first time I posted in a
You
while.
posted "fuck Donald Trump,"
Bro,
didn't you?
when you posted that, I was like trying to write a post, and then the squares came, and I was like, this is something I can do. And I was like, I don't have to write it. I just want to put my flag down and my position down in some way. And I was like, I'm going to do the square thing. And then 20 minutes later, I saw your square, and there was a black square. If anyone saw it, it was like everyone had black squares. He was a black square, and it just said, fuck Trump. And like,
Fuck.
huge.
Fuck that guy.
And I was like, yes, T, fuck. I wish I could post that, but I don't swear on my Instagram because it's my family. I'm like, okay, I got to start swearing more because that's how I talk. I should do it more, right? It's like, yeah. Anyway, that was my
Robbie, I got
story,
a question.
non-story.
Sorry, Paul.
That's all right.
Question for you. Your wife is Asian.
That's right.
You're as Aussie as you get. Blue-eyed.
Well, I'm actually
She used to live
Slovakian.
in Cabramatta
by
in a
nature.
little kind of
By-
housing area. Have a boyfriend that drove a WRX.
Yeah, that's how I met her, bro.
I polished his car.
You ever had any issues there, or
No, not really.
Mixed race couples.
you know, we've travelled to Asia, and I've been sort of like profiled. I thought I've got this Aussie guy with this, you know. Like
course.
we're in Thailand. Oh, these guys, you know, chasing the Thai women and stuff like that. And they're like, "Oh, what about me? What about me?" So, like, my wife wasn't too impressed about that, but I was like, you know, you look Asian, so it's going to happen. But no, yeah, nothing here. You know,
I think to reflect, it's almost impossible for anyone on this planet to be persecuting another race, because we're just so multicultural everywhere now. There's so much cross-pollination across the world. So
that's it. I don't get it. We're in 2020, and
there's pockets though. There's areas.
Yeah,
there's areas. I mean,
like,
go to country.
We're all human. We all
unless you do
bleed
the DNA
red blood.
test.
Like, Jesus Christ, get over it. You know, like. It's just people are smart enough to realise that it's just not necessary anymore. You know, as simple as that, in my mind.
I would agree, but I think that, and this is the tricky part about it, is that a lot of the, like if you ask anyone that say we would know, generally they would say, I'm not racist. Like, fuck that, I don't support it at all. Like, no way. However,
fucking walk.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, really? Yeah. I got another theory on that. But it's similar to how I view the gender equality discussion, which is that in that rational way, everyone disagrees with it existing and says that it's a bad thing. However, the system that we live in has the racism and the inequality built into it. And, you know, in many ways we're raised in that system. And so there's certain structures of it that we take for granted and that we're not conscious of. And those are the structures that can give way to the inequality, both for race and for gender. So that's why I find it's a very hard discussion to have beyond the I don't support racism, fuck racists.
Systemic.
It's systemic because it is a patriarchal society. It is a racist society, right? Like, it wasn't that long ago that we were murdering Aborigines and taking things from them, and you know. So it's like, and in America, like, you fucking only got to look at the history of that. The whole police force started out of having a force of people that were essentially controlling slaves who had escaped and bringing them back to. Well, it started with they were bringing them back to their owners. That was what the original police was, and that evolved into a police force, right?
Yeah.
So you're like, fuck. Okay, so. Like through the fabric of time, what was woven into it that is now a racist structure that is very hard for me as a privileged individual to recognize. And that's where I feel inadequate in my education about it. 'Cause I'm a fucking
The planted seed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? Like, even when you think about like kind of silly examples like the nursery rhymes and stuff that we have that have like racist undertones, and you're like, all right, there's fucking racism in the nursery rhymes, and there is. So you're like, fuck, what else is there racism in? Like, what other ways of just what I consider to be normal in life are actually offensive and disrespectful to another person?
Yeah, that's why I think the on an individual basis, the self-analysis is really important. Yeah, so you got to like sit down and basically analyze your own biases. So you sit down, and whether you do it with a pen and paper, there's actually lots of guides at the moment for self-analysis going around on the net. So you can just go, what do I think about this? What do I think about that? How do I talk to people like of this? You know, and fuck, it's a very difficult thing to do because, you know, we live and we understand and explain lots of things in stereotypes. And I don't think stereotypes are necessarily wrong, but I'm confused there as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's the whole self-analysis, understanding, and education is like, you know, fucking what we need right now. I'm not that well read on all the issues, and at some point I just stopped, you know, going down that hole, and now it's kind of up again. I'm like, I can't help it. I feel strongly about it, but I don't know enough about it. So it's like reading and watching, and you know, you got to check yourself all the time.
Just follow your moral compass.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
there's things you can do. It's because it's navigating the media is a hard thing as well. Like, you want to educate yourself. Where do you get it from? And you got to see both sides of everything. And
Such a tricky subject.
It's a fucking tricky one, man.
Well, it's one of the big. One of the big
the
fucking
necessary
human conversations, pretty much, which
Especially
is
now.
discrimination.
Everyone
is
just
feeling
needs to
that-
be like us at our gym, Jungle Brothers.
Open.
Yeah. Fuck. Accepting, non-judgmental.
Well, that's a great way to influence people, right? To change their behaviors. To like you're saying, leading from example. Thinking about the gym as a force for that. If you ever listen, there was a podcast that Joe Rogan did a couple of months ago with a Black American guy who is like a awesome voice, like a James Earl Jones kind of voice. He's like a jazz or a blues player.
Not talking about Cornel West, are you?
No.
Okay, because he's
he's from the South.
he's a musician.
But he has converted over 200 members of the KKK to
Oh,
leave
yeah,
KKK.
yeah.
And he talks
He
about
started turning up
how
at
he's
rallies.
done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and essentially he just did it by befriending them and hanging out with them and forming a one-to-one
That's right.
relationship. And through years of friendship, they just came to understand that he was just an awesome guy and just really the same as them. And so, and he didn't force anyone's hand or tell them what he wanted them to do. They just ended up being that they ended up leaving. But it was a huge, long process that required, obviously, him just to be a human and just be friendly with people that he found a connection with. So it's a very indirect way of influencing, but it's a powerful thing to listen to. And I think that, what you just said about the gym, we have a platform to be able to do that for folks.
Yeah.
Because we don't know, right, what the views of all of the people in here are.
No, we don't.
And we try not to go into that too much on a political sense, because we understand that people of all kinds and all beliefs and religions and whatever will want to come and train here and be a part of this.
But we definitely don't like we share our big tribe values, and I think that comes across in our marketing. It comes across in the way we treat each other on the floor, and it's cultural, And I think culture is a big game changer, but it's also something that's very difficult to change once it's ingrained. Like the fella that's taken a long time to get these guys to leave the KKK. Like that's culture that you got to undo, and it's very difficult. But if you can build your own culture, I think that's enough to start putting up a bit of a fight, I think we're building a real strong culture here. Soon
Agree.
we're going to take over this fucking planet.
Bro, have you ever experienced racism?
No non-Jungle
Being a-
Brothers are
Being a half caste?
yeah, totally. Both sides. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think just being half caste, I've always been tolerated, but never fully accepted by either my whitest kind of, like, I went to a boys' school, and that was
in the east.
that was Waverley College, and that was
Wavcol.
fucking rife with racism.
Was it?
Like, yeah, everyone hung out in their groups,
Was it?
The Asians, you had the Mediterraneans, and you had the Aussies, and it's changed now, I think. But no, it was just part of growing up, That was your identity. And
Australia.
it was a way of hurting people, and it was a way of empowering yourself, But I didn't really have a group that was... I just had a group of anyone that wasn't in one of those groups. You got all the leftovers?
Yeah,
They were all my
crew.
mates. Yeah.
The multicultural group.
Yeah, pretty much. The Motleys. And, same thing on my family's, my Cook Island family side, especially when I was a teenager, because you got to go through that rite of passage. And I was just, the white kid. And then going to school, I was the brown kid, But I used to get called a monkey a lot. And that just fucking, I don't know, hurt, It was always kind of hurtful, because I knew there was like the intention
Undertones.
of hurt behind it.
Yeah.
And that's what hurts. You know what I mean? And it's hard because you think, they're just words, and people say, fucking who gives a shit to people. Like, I'm not like you. I'm talking to Paul right now, where I can just brush that, and my friends are going to jump in, and that's like water off a duck's back. When someone says something hurtful to me, it digs really deep. I don't have the strength to deflect it or let it pass through me. And then I feel like I need to fight.
Punch them in the face.
Yeah. I need to fight
Repeatedly.
for it. Yeah. I mean, and then I fucking lose my shit, and then I regret it. And so that's that's been my personal experience with racism towards me. But yeah, and yeah, every now and then it'll pop up. I mean, very rarely, but that same kind of, it just evokes a whole bunch of pathways in my brain that are very negative, and it goes back to memories and visions, and I'm like, okay, well, that's just kind of there. And I'm going to be like honest right now, it wasn't a lot, you know what I mean? But the small amount that I did cop had a fucking hugely negative effect on my life. So when I think about like someone who's just in that place all day, every day, you just think, you know, those pathways just get stronger and stronger. And, you know, it's very difficult to pull yourself out of a place like that. And you get stuck in this, you know, in a place where nobody wants to be, you know. So, yeah, I understand it, but I'm just glad I'm not at the wrong end of it on a regular basis, you know, and I don't think I'd want to wish that on anyone.
Yeah, it'd be a fucking horrible situation for a lot of what American, you know, black Americans are facing, you know, and people all around the world, right?
Yeah.
To think
minorities, isn't it, really?
Yeah. And places where it is, you know, where it is systemic. It's like built in, and it's like, fuck, from where you're born and the housing you're in through to the jobs that you can get and all those things. We don't really have those limitations here.
Yeah. Well, I mean
we don't.
We don't. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should rephrase that. Many Indigenous people do.
Yeah.
Well, on that, I guess we'll wrap it up. But I was going to say the two things for me that influenced one thing. The one thing that I found was very helpful in coming to understand the First Peoples of Australia was reading about them. And I get a lot of education through books. Books are just my medium, but whatever, podcasts or social media, you can learn stuff. But there were two books that I read which gave me a greater understanding of the culture and a greater respect for it. And I found that was just very eye-opening because I realized I didn't actually have much respect for it prior to that. And not in a way that I was actively disrespectful of it, but just that I didn't really think all of that much of it. You know, I knew the shit that you knew from going to, you know, whatever they teach you in school. This is a boomerang. This is a fucking dot painting. You know, like those really things that are just kind of nothing. But two books. One was Dark Emu, which I talk about that a lot, but I would suggest if you want to know more about Aboriginal culture in Australia, read Dark Emu. It's a very easy read. And the other thing was a book I read called Leviathan, which is by John Birmingham. And it's not the whole book. The book is essentially a biography of Sydney, but he talks in a couple of parts about the Indigenous culture. He talks about them from the perspective of land management, and that's very relevant with the fires we had earlier this year. Then he also talks about racism and systemic racism in Sydney that came up through the police force and was enacted largely in areas like Redfern and whatnot. And I found both of those books really influential for me. So if there's someone out there that's listening, it's like, I don't know where to start, you could totally check those two books out.
But I've got Dark Emu at home in my pile ready to read. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you'll love it. Especially with your interest in...
Yeah, a lot of permaculture in like I was reading the introduction, and there's a lot of permaculture going on in the Aboriginal society and culture. Like they're real... Like we talk about First Nations as hunter-gatherers, but there's a lot of land management, like really complex stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it was great.
Yeah, like I guess it's a form of agriculture, isn't it? And they were doing that for... you know, tens of thousands of years, much, you know, in a much better way than we are. But yeah, the journey continues to try and learn more about it. Any closing thoughts from you guys?
Oh, look, you know, we can't change the past, but we can make a difference for the future. So I just hope, in light of what's happened in America, that, you know, we see some good change.
Something positive comes from it.
Yeah.
Because if we don't... it's never going to happen.
Yeah. I have to stay optimistic about things, for sure. And self-educating yourself, having a thought about it, take some time, have conversations with people. They're hard conversations to have. Try and be understanding of someone else that might have another opinion and work it through. I think, it's going to take a time and a big effort, but you can't keep putting it in the too hard basket because what's happening there is the story. It's not like it's over there and it's not here. It's not like it's irrelevant to anyone at so many levels.
Yeah, and it's
Politically,
really become,
we're so
it's really
tied
become
with
a movement now, isn't it? Because you're seeing a lot of countries come on board and have protests and speak up about it now. You know,
Yeah.
like we've seen, you know, things like this happen in the past, but I haven't seen such a huge reaction like we are now.
Yeah, totally, and for a good reason. Well,
Absolutely.
it's just been boiling underneath the surface for a long
That's
time,
right.
and this is it sparked. It's not like it just happened. It's just always been there, and
It's been a
fucking
trigger.
the lever's open.
Yeah.
The levee's open, and now everyone's talking about it. That's a really damn good thing. Mm.
And also, congratulations on your squat, Robbie.
Yeah, thanks, bro.
Yeah,
Congratulations
taking it,
on your new to be child.
Oh yeah, yeah, on the way. My third baby.
How far along is D?
These
Did you announce this on the podcast yet?
no, I haven't.
Sorry if I stole that thunder.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. Yeah,
Guys,
we've
we're
got
having
third
a baby.
coming. Third
Yeah.
baby. I don't know what it's going to be. We
I reckon
are
boy or
halfway there.
girl.
Halfway there. I don't know.
No, I'm saying, you know, people love to speculate.
Yeah.
You're like, look, it's either going to be one or the other.
Yeah.
We really don't need to talk about it. Yeah. No, I think it's definitely going to be a boy. It's just, I've just got a feeling.
I can see like where the lump's sitting. It's like
Yeah, that's it. Do the ring thing, you know.
Yeah, so that's really exciting. We'll have a coronial, and at first it was a little bit freaky.
Coronial?
Coronial.
What's that?
Corona baby.
Oh, is
Yeah.
that what they're being called?
Coronials. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Conceived during COVID-19.
Wowza.
Yeah.
Against all the odds.
Yeah. I reckon there'll be a lot actually. There's
Yeah.
been not a hell of a lot else to do over time getting locked in the house.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're really excited. Third baby. You know, I'm excited and I'm nervous at the same time because I just got to figure out how to fucking feed it.
That sounds like a healthy
Need to make some
way to
fucking
feel
money.
about it.
Got this business making some money.
That's part of the reason why I
Pay
started
rise.
detailing to feed my 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where can people get on board your business if they want to find out about getting their car detailed, bruh?
Yeah, they just search RC Car Care on the socials, or I've got a website, www.rccarcare.com.au, or just hit me up through the tribe. I do offer a discount for tribe members. So, yeah, there's some avenues to get in contact with me.
And if you quote that you listen to this podcast, but you're not a member of the tribe, Rob will still hook you up with a discount.
Absolutely.
You did my van. It's never looked better.
Thanks.
Real talk. And that was like years ago. You did like 3 years ago. And every
Yeah.
time I get a wash, it looks like fucking deluxe.
Ceramic coating. Anand's getting his done today as well. Today?
Yeah, tomorrow,
This week,
yeah.
tomorrow?
And he's going to
Yeah,
take it
yeah.
over to Johnny to get tinted.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's going to look gangster.
Yeah.
Dark skinned guy, tinted windows,
Yeah.
shiny wheels. I'm just saying.
And then he winds the window
Just
down
don't
and
drive
opens
his
his mouth.
Calamari.
Yeah, I know. This guy's safe.
This guy's cool.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm a
That's cool.
doctor.
Is it?
They're like,
Yeah.
oh, we could tell. I love you, Anand.
Love Nando. Thanks for listening in today, guys. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend, pass it on, take a screenshot of it, put it on your Instagram stories, just get the word out there, help support us. If you have any requests for future topics or whatever, email them through or flick us a DM at Jungle Brothers Movement on Instagram and junglebrothers.com on the webpage. If you want to train, come at us. Gym's opening at the end of this week. However, our online classes will be continuing. So if you're listening from afar and you want to train, do the online thing or follow an online program, we've got your back. Get in touch. Robbie, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Team Paulie, thanks, gents.
Thanks, boys.
Bro.
Peace out, everybody.
Ew.